So today's workshop is mastering the job search, and this is probably the most important part of why we are here, is we are trying to get a job, we're re-entering the workforce and figuring out what that's going to look like. And some of you may have already started the job search process, some of you haven't, you're just dipping your toes. Regardless of where you are in your return to the workforce journey, this evening will be a great workshop for you with a lot of tips and tricks that will be helpful to you. So our agenda for this evening is number one, understanding job search platforms. There are a lot of job search platforms out there, and we're going to review some of them. Effective networking strategies. So how do you actually get jobs through your network? And navigating the online application. So nowadays, most applications are online. So we'll talk about what that looks like. And again, you'll get some tips for that. So understanding job search platforms. So back in the day when I returned to work about 10 years ago, I think there were 4. And now I counted at least 10 that were online. And these are job search platforms, not even the job boards, which is what they call it, a company, when you go online and you type in a company's name. So like, for example, Qualtrics is a local company. If you wanted to get a job with Qualtrics, you would type in qualtrics.com / it normally says careers or jobs or things like that, or you can go to the home page and up at the top in the top navigation or down at the bottom of that home page, that first page will tell you, there'll be a button where you can click, or a word that you can click that says careers, jobs, etc. And you can also apply directly within their platforms. But we're going to talk right now about just job search platforms and what some of them kind of look like. And I'm going to make some recommendations of why I like the ones that I like. So this is my favorite one. This one is called simplyhired.com. And this wasn't available when I returned to the workforce 10 years ago. So this particular job platform I really like because it's just easy to navigate. I like some of the different sections, and we're going to actually go to this specific job platform in just a few minutes. But I just like how it's laid out. It's very easy. You can put in the job title or the skills or the company in that bar. You can put your city, state, zip, or remote. I especially like that because you can just put in remote and then search jobs, and then it will populate the page with those jobs that meet those requirements. And I just like it. I like that. That's my preference. So that one is one I really like. There's Indeed. Indeed.com has been around forever. I think that's one of the very first job search platforms. And they have just a similar look. You can see how it populates on the left and then the right, but their search terms are a little different. It's in some ways it's more thorough, but sometimes having more options makes it challenging. So this has an option of date posted. So you can choose to search for the different jobs that have been posted most recently or that have been posted 3 weeks, depending. You can choose remote or in person. Pay, so that drop down here and that button can let you choose what pay range you want to search in. So if you have a bare minimum, you have to make this much money, then you can choose that pay range, which I do like. Job type, encouraged to apply, location, company, posted by, experience level, and education. So again, lots of options and ways to be able to search, but sometimes it's challenging. Now, you don't necessarily even have to use any of those. You can just put in the job. So I put in there field marketing, which is my background. I'm in field marketing, and then Utah, and then you can click search. So you don't even have to follow any of those filters, and it will still populate. So that is one. Like I said, Indeed has been around forever. LinkedIn is the one we talked about last time when we were talking about creating LinkedIn profiles. And you just type in linkedin.com / I believe it's jobs, and then this page comes up. So in the very top, you would put the job you're trying to get, like let's say accountant, and then where in the United States. That just says United States. If I wanted it to be in Utah, I would put Salt Lake City, Utah, or Provo, Utah, and then hit search. Again, you can make some choices of some filters. There's fewer in this one, so I like that a little bit better. The other thing I like about LinkedIn is it gives you an option of easy apply, which means you can apply to it really easy by just uploading your resume. I think it also gives you an option just to have, if you have a LinkedIn profile, to have it also pull the information from your LinkedIn profile. Sometimes the biggest challenge of these online applications is the time it takes to actually apply. So LinkedIn has shortened that by making it easy to apply. The downside of LinkedIn is that because it's such a big platform, so many jobs are listed on it and so many people come to LinkedIn, it's pretty competitive. I think all of the job search platforms are going to be competitive, but I think when I have sometimes applied for jobs, I can see how many people have applied for it. Like, for example, this one says Senior Director, Global Field Marketing, and it says 6 days ago, so that's when it was posted, and they have 54 applicants. I've seen some that say 2,000 applicants. So sometimes that can be a reason not to apply, and sometimes if you feel really confident, you should go ahead and apply. It's okay. You can also, if you have a LinkedIn profile, another thing I really like is it automatically tells you how many of the skills that they are looking for that job that is there that match your profile. So this one says 8 of 12 skills match your profile. You may be a good fit. So if I wanted to find another one, it might say 3 of your 12 skills, 3 of the 12 skills that they're requiring. So I probably wouldn't want to apply, or I would need to look at my profile and think, oh, maybe I'm missing some things that I should put in my LinkedIn profile that would match more of these types of jobs. And, you know, again, this one's an option of in easy apply that you can apply very easily. It also, the other thing I like too, is it shows you who's the hiring team, which is great. Now, something I didn't know when I was returning to the workforce, I didn't know the difference between a recruiter and a hiring manager. I thought they were the same, but they're 2 different people. So a recruiter is often within the company. Sometimes they can be an external recruiter, like a headhunter, trying to find different people for a company that a company has hired. So some companies, especially for jobs that are hard to fill, or for jobs that are higher level, like C-suite, they will hire an external company to recruit individuals to bring them to their job application process. So, but a lot of companies have their own recruiters. So the company that I work for, we have multiple recruiters in the HR, so human resource department, that go and find candidates for jobs that we have that are open. So a recruiter, if you saw somebody reach out to you on LinkedIn, or if someone sent you an email and it said recruiter, they're the ones that are actively trying to find people for that job. Whereas the hiring manager is the person that's going to be doing the hiring. So for my team, if I had an open role, I would be considered the hiring manager. That's not my title, but that is what I would be in this case. So if you see, like this says, meet the hiring team, talent and people partner, building diverse world-class teams. This person, Jeremy Sanchez, is not the person that you would be working for. Usually the hiring manager is going to be your manager, your boss, because they're the ones trying to make sure that that person fits, and they're going to interview you, whereas the recruiter will do an initial interview with you, and they'll also check out your resume and your cover letter. But once you have gone through that initial process of talking to the recruiter, they will then pass you on to the hiring manager if they think you're a good fit. Okay, so further down, if you were to look at that page online, you would see multiple people, and there would potentially be the actual hiring manager in that group as well. So I do really like LinkedIn. I really love also being able to see on the left very easily. It scrolls visually. It looks really good. It's clean. I really do like LinkedIn to look for jobs. And that's, again, why you want to have a LinkedIn profile that's up to date, because a lot of recruiters will be looking on LinkedIn I mean, hopefully they'll get people applying because these are the job posting that they've applied, that they've posted, but they would like to get as many people that are coming into them, but they'll also be looking within LinkedIn as well. So the next one is Glassdoor, and Glassdoor has been around for a really long time as well. They don't have as many filtering options, so I don't really like Glassdoor. This is probably my least favorite. The setup, the layout is kind of similar to Simply Hired and Indeed, but I just don't like Glassdoor. The advantage of Glassdoor is if you were to continue scrolling on this page, you would find people's reviews of that company and whether they liked it and what the benefits are like. There's a lot more personalization. So if I were looking for a company that I'm considering applying to, I might just use Glassdoor to look up the company so I could see all the reviews. I could see, do people like working at this company or not? I wouldn't use it to apply, but I would definitely do some research. Now, sometimes those reviews aren't accurate because people are biased, and sometimes employees might leave a company and be angry and want to leave a negative review just to be angry and kind of stick it to them. But also some companies will pad their reviews too by saying to employees, leave a review on Glassdoor and tell everybody how awesome we are, things like that. And so just understand that there's a little bit of bias there. The other thing a lot of these platforms offer is create a job alert, so they can alert you and I think most all of them have that. So you can be notified if the job that you're looking for is posted or if new ones are posted. So that's a really nice option. All right. So this is a Simply Hired application, which I said I like this job site the most. And I've put in marketing director and I've chosen remote, and then I've clicked search jobs, and these are the ones. Now the very top option on the far left, that option, that filter says relevance. So those are going to be the jobs that say field marketing in the title, or they have it in the description, and it definitely is, field marketing, right? This toggle here at the top between relevance and date, so I could choose to have it bring me the most recent ones added. Like, so these ones say 4 hours, 5 hours, so these were just uploaded. And I can also toggle here to choose anytime and all those. Now, some jobs that have been up for 30 days, you might think, oh, well, they've probably already hired somebody. That's not the case. A lot of jobs take a long time to fill. So don't worry that, you can definitely do 30 days and capture more than doing 7 or 14. And then minimum salary, this is checked for all salaries, but let's say I have to make $165,000. I could select that and it will only bring me up the jobs that are $165,000 or more. Now you have to understand that I haven't always found that to be accurate. I have found that whatever reason, this is my bias, when I've looked at Simply Hired in comparison to the other company websites that have these job applications, it seems to be that the salary seems to be more accurate for me when I've gone on Simply Hired versus when I've been on LinkedIn or things like that. They didn't seem as accurate. So you'll have to just discover that yourself. And then job type, you can choose full-time, contract, part-time, temporary, internship. And I love that because it gives you lots of options. So let's say you want to re-enter the workforce, but you're not ready to work full-time. Let's say you've got some childcare issues, you want to resolve those first, and you can work during a certain part of the day. That's a great option to be able to choose part-time. Or let's say you just need a job temporarily. Let's say you've decided to go back to work just to earn some money to pay off your house, or you're saving up money for Christmas, whatever it happens to be. You can choose a temporary job. Internships, those are a great way to get experience. And certainly a lot of internships you think, oh, well, those are for college students. But I do know of companies that they do offer internships for people who are returning to work as opposed to those who are just out of college or still in college. Contract, those jobs are just often temporary, but they can often turn into full-time. So I have a friend who took a job as a contract worker, and now she is a permanent worker with that company. And so that's nice. The disadvantage with contract is that you're not going to have your benefits because you're not one of their full-time employees. So just realize that. But again, it's a great way to search for job types. Distance, you can have exact location, meaning if I put up here Provo, Utah, and then I chose exact location, it would only give me the jobs that were marketing director in Provo, Utah. You can also choose 5 miles, 15, 100, etc. So you can choose that as well. But if you're choosing city or state, oftentimes, let's say you want to move to California, you just put in the city and state, and that's an easy way to search. So on the left here, you can see a bunch of the different jobs. Again, I put marketing director, but there's lots of different parts of marketing. Like I'm in field marketing. So if I wanted to have a field marketing job, I would want to make sure I was more specific. But some of these jobs have field marketing as part of them, so it's okay. So sometimes I might just look and see what other jobs are similar. And so that's on the left, and here on the right is where I have stopped to look. So I'm going to look at, let's look at this, Starburst Director Growth Marketing. Okay, so I don't know what kind of company Starburst is, but it's in Boston. And it gives me the job details of full-time, when it was listed 20 hours ago, the estimated salary, it gives us a salary range, benefits, and qualifications. So these are the different things you need to have in your resume or your skill set. It gives the job description about the role and the things that they're looking for. Remember how last week we talked about making sure you put keywords in your resume for the words that they are looking for? You'd want to make sure that you have these in your resume or similar words if you really wanted to work for this company. And it gives you some understanding of how your career might look at Starburst, and then just additional information. So again, I just really like that as an option. This Liberty Mutual has the job description, responsibilities, qualifications, and some information about the company, and that's as far as it goes. So I really like that. Now that I've told you all this, I have to tell you what I actually do with these job application platforms. I don't usually apply in the job application platforms because I haven't found a lot of success applying through the job application platform. So I usually search for the jobs that I want to work for, the companies, and then I go to the actual company's website. However, this website gives you an option of that Apply Now button. It will take me to Liberty Mutual Insurance's, job application, their platform. So you can actually look for job that you can actually apply for that within their platform. Not every platform allows that, but I like going directly into the platform itself. So again, it gives you all that information and gives you some similar jobs. And this is what you would consider to be part of their job board because it's online. And if I went to Liberty Mutual and searched on their homepage, I could find this job. So if I go to DigiKey Careers, this is another one that is, one that was listed that I could then directly apply. And it gives you an option then to start your application. So in this one, it says autofill with resume, apply manually, which means if you autofill with resume means you're going to upload your resume and it's going to feed all the information into their application. And that sometimes doesn't work well, especially if you have your resume formatted in different ways. And then apply manually allows you to actually type it all in and then use my last application. Let's say you applied to them already, you can use that. And then it also says in apply with LinkedIn. For whatever reason, I haven't had great success when there's been an option to use my LinkedIn profile to apply with. I don't know why that is. It just doesn't seem to capture all the information, so I often will apply manually. But something I learned over time is, and I'm just going to go over to LinkedIn's application platform, but something I learned over time is, remember how last week I showed you my nice looking resume? It was formatted, it looks all great. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later about the application tracking systems. But if you're going to be using your resume to upload, it's best to use a plain resume. So I will often have a resume that looks nice and has, like kind of looks more fancy, like the one I showed last week. But I'll also have a resume that's very bare bones and plain and just says experience, the job or the experience that I had, and then a bullet point, and information, and then my, my volunteer activities and my education and things like that. It'll just be a very plain one because those ones upload much easier into these systems, and I'll explain later why that's really important. This is LinkedIn's, and there's that option that says set alert. Now, sometimes you can end up getting way too many alerts, and so I've found that sometimes that's great, sometimes it isn't. But here are the options of being able to search experience level, salary, company, etc. So like company, they give you all of these companies that are in the search. And so if I had a company that I specifically wanted to search for, I could add it up here and it will give me those results. Again, remote, it says on-site, which means you're going to be expected to work at the company or the organization. Hybrid, which means nowadays, since COVID, they have usually hybrid options where you go into work for 3 days and you stay home for 2. And a lot of companies offer that now because they were finding it was challenging to get their workers to come back into the office because they were used to working from home, working remotely during COVID, the pandemic. And then this is an option to be remote. So if I wanted, I could choose multiple options. So if I want to do hybrid and I also want to choose remote, then I could have that search, and it show 1,000 plus results. So there's lots of options. Okay. So it's just doing a search, and now it's finding some titles. Now you'll see that I put in my option here, head of marketing. That means you're in charge of marketing. But there are lots of different titles here that aren't exactly what I said. There's senior director, global field marketing, and digital director. So just know that if you want it to be exact, you would want to put that in quotation marks, or just realize that it's going to pull up some titles that may not be exactly what you want. But you can change that by choosing your experience level as being much higher. So they have internship, entry level, associate, mid-senior, director, and executive. So if you're looking for an entry level job, you'd want to choose that, and it would filter and give you the titles that are more entry level. But if I was wanting a more senior role, then I might choose director or executive. Again, you can choose multiple, and then it'll show me those. Okay, so I really do love this platform. It's a great one. I still prefer Simply Hired just because it seemed to give me, Simply Hired also gave me some smaller businesses because LinkedIn and a lot of these job application platforms are expensive for companies to put their jobs on, so you won't necessarily be able to find them. Another way to be able to find jobs is just through the job boards that are local. So for example, Silicon Slopes have a job board that are tech jobs. And so you can type up Silicon Slopes jobs in Google and it will take you to the job board and you can see what tech jobs are available. Also, industries will often have job platforms as well, certain industries. So just make sure you utilize a search like Google and find out all of those different job platforms where you can search and find those opportunities. So now we're going to talk about effective networking strategies, and I have a workshop that's specifically about networking. So this one is just going to be much more high level and going to be more brief. But I do want you to know about the importance of networking. I have I have gotten 50% of my jobs through job applications and 50% through networking. So for me, it's been 50-50. So I encourage you to use networking and job applications. The issue with applying online are they have hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants sometimes for these jobs. And so you are just one of many. But if you are able to network and talk to the people, your friends, family, neighbors, former coworkers, maybe a former manager or boss that you had, and let them know that you're re-entering the workforce and are they aware of any openings at their companies, then that is the best way, I think, of finding a job, especially as you're re-entering the workforce. Because the people that know you the best know your skills. They know you're a hard worker. They know you're responsible. And so I would utilize your network above some of these other options of the application process. There was a time when I wanted to switch from the industry that I was in into tech. And because they were announcing in the news how these tech companies wanted to hire more women, I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. Here I am, I'm a woman, I have a degree, I'm hardworking, I have work experience. Because at this point, I had been working in the workforce again, probably for about 4 years at this point, or 3 or 4 years. And so I thought, oh, of course, they're going to hire me. I think I applied to 80 jobs in tech and I didn't hear from a single one. Like I didn't even get a person responding back and saying, thank you for applying. But I think part of it is that I didn't have some of those keywords, right? And I just didn't make any of the cuts. And so in that case, I really wish I had started with networking, and I wish I hadn't tried to do just this mass email to lots of different companies and uploaded my resume to all these job applications. It was just a long process. But so I would say your networking strategy is going to be the most important part. And we'll go into this more detail in a couple of weeks. But the reason why I also like networking is because people can build you up too. Like when you're talking to somebody, they're going to say, oh my gosh, you would be so good for this role. You would fit our company. It builds you up. It gives you confidence. And they may also offer to look at your resume, look at your cover letter. Take advantage of those people who are already in the workforce because they will be your best advocates. So when I was returning to the workforce after I got my first job, because that was again through networking, through my brother and his network, when it came time to then apply for different other jobs, I would reach out to as many different people as I knew at the companies that I wanted to work for, or if I knew that they were well connected, I would just let them know that I was looking for a job, and then they could introduce me to people that they know. So I think that's your best bet, is using your networking strategy. Now, something that you really need to get good at is, because there's some job fairs that you go to in person where you would network and meet other people. When I say networking, that's just having conversations and meeting new people. So that network word, don't let that be a scary thing. But you're maybe going to go to these career job fairs and meet people in person, and you're going to have a conversation. Or if you're applying and you have a cover letter, you're going to also have a conversation in that cover letter as well. And so you've got to figure out your elevator pitch. So your elevator pitch is your first introduction to a person, and you're going to tell them about yourself and give them a reason why they should continue the conversation. So these are the things you want to make sure you do. You introduce yourself near the very beginning of the elevator pitch. So just one sentence about who you are. You mention your full name, your occupation if you're working, or what you're currently doing. Explain what you do and the problems you solve. So if you're currently a stay-at-home mom, you would explain that you are currently managing a household with so many kids, and you are doing all these activities, and you work in maybe you do some charity work, or you do some volunteer work. And so they're identifying who you're serving. And then you want to make sure you also add what makes you different, what makes you stand apart. And then lastly, include an exciting hook. So we're going to look at somebody's elevator pitch, and why it's called an elevator pitch is it should be something you can say quickly enough that if you were going from your floor to the lobby of the hotel or apartment building, you would have been able to talk to them and they would know who you're about. So this one says, "Hi, my name is Sarah. It's so nice to meet you. I'm a PR manager specializing in overseeing successful initiative launches from beginning to end. Along with my 7 years of professional experience, I recently received my MBA with a focus on consumer trust and retention. I find the work your PR team does to be innovative and refreshing, and I'd love the opportunity to put my expertise to work for your company. Would you mind if I set up a quick call next week for us to talk about any upcoming opportunities on your team?" So at the end, I like hers because her hook is a call to action. She wants to give them a reason to reach out, or she's telling them that she will reach out. And so even though this is a person that's already in the workforce, you can customize this for what you're currently doing. So you may be involved in PTA. You may have a church responsibility, and you can share that and why that's giving you experience and why you're a hard worker and your background. Certainly, if you did work before you became a stay-at-home mom, then you've got lots of other work experience that maybe from years ago, but you can just say my background is in, right? You don't have to say I've had this long career gap. If they ask you about how long has it been, you certainly should be honest and tell them, but you don't have to bring that up right away. And just tell them why you are different. Like she talks about she focuses on consumer trust and retention. So if I was a hiring manager and that was important to me, or if I was one of her friends in her network and I knew my company valued that, then I would want to have an additional conversation with her. I also like that she's done some research that she can see that this PR team that she's trying to have an interview with is innovative and they do things that are refreshing. So do your research if you're really wanting to work for a specific company, understand what they do and why you would bring value to them. All right, so navigating the online application, and this is the part that I wanted to give more details about. So you have all these application systems that I showed you, and you're actually going to do the application. And these are the things that I think are really key to remember. So we talked about this when we were discussing about the importance of keywords and why you need to make sure you put those in your resume. And the reason why is because of these software tracking systems that will spit you out of the pool of candidates if you don't meet certain job requirements or keywords. So these application tracking systems, or ATS, these companies use, and about 98% of Fortune 500 companies use these systems. So when I say Fortune 500, those are typically the brands and names that you're very familiar with. Apple and Amazon and these big companies, right? And some of these smaller companies are also starting to invest in it, but a lot of the companies that use it are some of the bigger brands. But because of that, you want to make sure that your resume, your application isn't spit out because you just didn't use the right keywords. So you want to make sure that you are tailoring your application to meet the keyword requirements of the job. So remember when we were looking at those jobs and it had the requirements or they had the qualifications? If you want a specific job in an area, you want to make sure you're using some of those keywords that the hiring manager or the recruiter would be looking for. So look at some of those jobs and those descriptions and use some of those in your application. Now, I showed you on LinkedIn where it said how many of your skills or your qualifications met the job qualifications. That was kind of nice because it told me, oh, my LinkedIn profile already meets a lot of these qualifications. But if you want a specific job, let's say you wanted to be in payroll, you wanted to be a payroll clerk or a payroll manager, you would want to look up on Google, what are some common requirements for payroll manager? Or if you wanted to work for a specific company and you saw in their application exactly what they're looking for, you're going to want to tailor your application, your resume to have those same keywords. Now, you don't want to fill your entire resume and application with just random words, and you don't want to be dishonest. You want to put the actual skills that you have, But sometimes we might leave off something and it will take reading a job application, go, oh yeah, I forgot. I know how to do that, and add it to your resume. So just make sure you take the time to look at different job applications or job requirements to be able to know what it is you're supposed to answer. So you're going to identify those keywords for the job description and incorporate them. And then once you actually are going to apply, then you're going to be ready to put it into the system. So like I said, I think it's easier to have a plain resume when you're going to apply to some of these online application systems. And sometimes what I've done also in the past is I have created different applications and I save them as a Word document or PDF in my files, and I will have it for different jobs. So for example, since I'm in marketing, I could do field marketing, I could do